The MoneroTopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
Looking at the price here this week, not really a too eventful week in price like across the board in general. Monero's had kind of a pullback. So here we are looking at the weekly chart for Monero, and you can see that basically we kind of touched that pleb line, really in a pretty obvious spot. Like it's one of those situations where it's like this line right here is just so easy and obvious to draw that everyone's looking at the same line, which means that that's where some people are going to be taking profits. And regardless of what we want to think, you know, there are plenty of traders out there in Monero. There are plenty of people that remember thinking up here, oh God, I should have sold, right? And then not selling and then writing this thing down for like 3 years now to come back, 4 years actually. So yeah, it's unsurprising. There's going to be some sellers, and that's really not a problem. That's, you know, probably a good thing. So yeah, we hit like a pretty obvious resistance spot. Here's another thing to look at that I showed you guys a couple weeks ago. This is the very top of the upper standard deviation, moving standard deviation. So basically we've gotten above that, and it's one of these situations where you say, you know, in a statistical sense, you've gone straight from one area of significance here, right? That level that we finally got up to after a period of time, and then broke through that, just massively pumped, and then got above the very next upper standard deviation line, the very highest one, and even pumped above that, right? So getting up to this level here was significant, both because of in a technical sense, a technical analysis, tea leaves. It was significant both for the pleb line touch and also because we were quite far above the moving standard deviation. So a pullback here is really not surprising in the slightest. It's not a problem for the potential for price continuation. I very much suspect that especially if crypto and markets tend to be positive over the coming weeks and months, then Monero should rebound to the top of this line. And it could very well be one of these situations where, you know, we're going to find some support, come back to the top of the line. If we touch this line again, guys, it's over. Forget it. It's a foregone conclusion. We're going to beat the line and we're going to come up somewhere, right?
Thank you, Maverick. Maverick is doing a fantastic job.
Bro, I have no idea. I don't even know who that is. I don't even know who that guy.
Well, I do just want to bring something up because this Anon man comments on Extra Chat are being censored. Nobody's censoring comments, man. And Anon man, you've been around. You've been part of this community. You know we're never intentionally censoring anything. So please chill, man. Even if you see like we haven't pulled up an XMR chat, you know we're not censoring you. We pull up all XMR chats. So chill out.
I mean, guys, y'all are on YouTube, and you know that Google is filtering certain types of words. So we might even get a strike just because we said the 88 too much. Well, we actually didn't say 88. We just said 8, right? We just said the H word too many times, the H name. So, I mean, bro, we can't stop. If like, do you really think like we're in cohort, like we're collaborating with Google to censor particular people's comments in the chat here? I mean, I don't know. I guess I take actually, you know, can you censor comments on Google? Are you allowed to? Can you? I guess you can. Anyways, we're not doing any of that. We're putting you guys up here. Like Doug is like,
I don't even know how to do that.
That he doesn't. Like he doesn't have to put these comments. They're YouTube comments. Like he doesn't have to put your comment on screen, man. Like come on. All right. Anyways,
yeah, we prioritize
the drama
XMR.
aside.
Any XMR chat that's sent, we will bring it up. Any YouTube comment or X comment, I can't promise that I'll bring it up because we prioritize XMR chats. So if you want your comment to come up, send it as an XMR chat. We'll bring it up.
Can I ask a favor that, you know, if there are XMR chats that show up that are regarding the drama, can we save those for the end and try to just focus on price? I'd really not rather talk about Monero Maverick in relation to the price. I mean, okay, it is slightly related to the price, and maybe I can address it shortly, but I prefer not to.
We'll save those for the end for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so we've got, like I said, we've got this situation where we've tagged this very, very obvious pleb line. We definitely got pretty far ahead of the upper standard deviations, and so a pullback was reasonable here. And you know, price, like this is still bullish. Like it doesn't, like there's no reason that this is that it's over to the downside. My theory here would be that if we find a way to consolidate, Monero price consolidates and touches this pleb line again, it's over to the upside, right? Like we're going higher if that happens, right? So a touch of this pleb line again is extremely bullish. So I'll be hoping for that. If the markets continue to be bullish here, and there's actually quite a few reasons to think that they will be. We'll talk about that with the macro. But yeah, I think Monero definitely has solid potential for continued positive price action. And another thing is, like, I think just in general, Monero has a lot of potential for positive price action over the coming years, right? I think the fractional reserve and all the fuckery and the delistings and like all of it, they pretty much maxed out everything they can do. The last thing they could really try to do is try and get Monero delisted from Kraken in various states in the United States. I wouldn't put anything past them, but I think that's going to be pretty difficult for the people. For like, if they do that, they're just going to shine a big spotlight on Monero and say, wait, you just said crypto is legal, Mr. Trump. Why, like, is it? Why are y'all now? Why are people trying to ban it? I thought it was totally fine. And now this one is bad, right? They won't. So they're not going to do it. It works against them. So the worst of the attacks is over. And from here, it's just like, it's a foregone conclusion. People are coming into Monero. Like, just look at the current environment situation. People of all different, I don't know, everything are coming into Monero, from criminals to people that just like the coin. So I do think we've got solid, rosy years ahead of us for price action. So whether that has to manifest immediately right now, I don't know. At the moment, this current weekly candle does. So contrary to what I was just saying over the short-term price, this actually does have a feel of kind of a bearish engulfing candle. That doesn't necessarily mean anything when you've gone up this much in price. Usually bearish engulfing candles are, I would personally look at them as more significant in other types of situations than ones where you pumped to the level that Monero has pumped recently. Yep. So let's go and take a look at the Monero versus Bitcoin price. You can see, same kind of deal here. We're on the weekly. We've had a little bit of a pullback candle, and again, a very, very clear and obvious spot. Like this line that I had drawn here, that was drawn from 2 weeks ago. Like we just happened to touch that line exactly, and it makes sense, right? Because that's exactly where the weekly closes were happening. At the top of the bull market in 2021 and the bottom of the XMR BTC bear market, which always just so happens seems to coincide with massive pumps in crypto, pumps that are unsustainable, pumps based on leverage, pumps based on fraud. So it tells you it's just like gold. When they print new money, they don't put it into gold. They put it into everything else. When they print new tethers and use fraud of other means to pump crypto prices, they don't put it into Monero, just like they don't put new printed cash into gold. So yeah, that was definitely a spot that would be unsurprising for resistance to happen. Again, same story here. If we consolidate and end up touching this line again, it's over. We're going to the upside, and we're definitely we'll end up at these upper standard deviations here. And that basically it just gives us solid firepower if we come here to the monthly to say, yeah, look, Monero is one of the only coins that for 10 years has held its price against Bitcoin. It has not hit new lows. And honestly, I think it's going to be difficult for that to happen. Bitcoin already has diminishing returns. There's already problems there. Yeah. It's got the corporate whatever, but they always say that. It's like every new bull market, the institutional is here. You haven't seen nothing yet. Hyper Bitcoinization, and it never really manifests to the level that they claim that it does. Let's take a look at the divergences. We've had some interesting action here going on with KuCoin and CoinEx. Interesting. What's going on here, guys? Why do you have all this? Why's all this negative stuff happening here? We all front running a pullback for the past few days here, looks like. Damn, these guys really. All right, let's take a look at their absolute, because these are the volume weighted divergences. So we're gonna remove the volume adjustment, and we are just gonna look at their divergences as a percentage base. That's not huge. It's minus 0.5% to Kraken. And everyone, but look at this. They're all doing, except for Poloniex. Poloniex is out in left field. It does its own thing. I don't know what they're up to, but everybody else, Bitfinex, KuCoin, MEXC, and CoinEx, all of whom have shown themselves in one way or another to be nefarious entities, except for CoinEx. I don't have anything on them. And maybe KuCoin isn't so bad, actually. I don't think they've really shut down withdrawals. So, all right. Sorry, KuCoin. I spoke hastily. Anyways, Finex and MEXC are definitely bad actors. And yeah, we're seeing these divergences here to the downside. I guess maybe that makes sense. They were probably counting on resistance, and so maybe they diverge their prices down, saying, "Hey, we know this shit's going to go down here because it's at resistance." I don't know. I'm like totally speculating there, just like totally stream of consciousness. So don't hold me to it, right? Don't lynch me for it. Monero versus the rest of the market, right? The XMR dominance, XMR.D. This is actually a beautiful chart, guys. We're on the 8 hour. I don't know why I was on the 8 hour. But still, this is actually a very nice chart. Effectively, what's happening here, we've ridden some standard deviations, established that as the level, pumped bigly, and then now we are effectively, you can see these purple bands have curled up, the blue bands are curled up, and we're kind of just like, I would expect to just kind of keep riding in here. There could be some of this here, but right now, in a TA sense, the more likely scenario is to maybe find some support somewhere in this squiggly line and then end up sort of riding these bands to higher victory. So cheers to Monero. Cheers to those who, all of those who like Monero. You know, we'll pull back on the drama here soon enough. Just it's got to be stated, and then we can let it go. All right, so going to Monero's hash rate. So interesting hash rate chart here. What's happening? I've seen other hash rate charts too. So this is definitely not the definitive hash rate chart because you're kind of making an inductive conclusion here, or you're using inductive logic to determine what the hash rate is on the basis of difficulty adjustments. And I don't know, probably there's a few other ways of determining this because I've seen different numbers and charts that look slightly different. So at any rate, it does look like the Tari launch at one point brought us up to almost 6.5 gigas. And then we had like a precipitous drop off. So maybe is it that people tried to do the Tari thing and then it was like there was some difficulty there? I don't know. At any rate, it does still look like we are still like solidly, you know, in the 4.5 plus giga range. So who knows what this kind of vacillation is. Hopefully people out there are still, you know, doing the dual mining thing. I really want to see DarkFi launch. And if they launch, we can definitely, like, there's going to be another massive onslaught of hash rate because they're merge mining with Monero. So there's going to be a massive amount of hash rate. And here's the good thing. They're pre-mine. If there is one, I can't remember, but if there is one, it's like really small. It's like 5% or less, I think. So implying that people are actually going to be truly motivated to get DarkFi once they start merge mining mainnet with Monero, because the only way to get DarkFi at that point is to actually mine it. So whereas, you know, Tari, as we've discussed, had some eyebrow raising decisions in terms of who the hell was it? It wasn't Paris. Was it Paris Hilton? I don't remember.
Yeah, Paris Hilton. Yep.
Yeah, so they gotta make sure Paris gets her little payout. Okay, that's fine. I guess people make all kinds of decisions. I personally don't agree, but you know.
I didn't see this this drop in mining hash rate. That's interesting. So do we think it's something because of Tari? Like they were, I think they were having maybe some issues, right, with mining, and right, people using P2 pool versus not.
Yeah,
don't quote me on it, but I think there were some issues.
I think their problems were related to Tor because Tor, your connection can just drop out randomly sometimes, and that's if your connection drops out randomly, even for a few seconds, that can be really bad for mining, right? Because if you just found the block, and you're supposed to get paid, and then you know, and then your connection drops out, right? That's problematic. So, and that's also, I assume, I'm like intuiting here, that's probably going to be problematic as well for your payouts, right? If you drop off the network and you're showing fewer hashes because you lost a minute here, a minute there, you know, you're going to get paid out less. So I think that was probably part of the problem. Probably Fluffy is shaking his fist at me if he's listening, because, you know, I'm sure there's something far more technically correct there. But, and I'm also speculating. I don't know why the hash rate dropped. I just remember it seemed like, yeah, there were some problems, a few problems, growing pains with the hash rate for them. So maybe they'll get that worked out. And I don't know if the drop is related to that though, right? So just total speculation here, right? Just keeping in context what I know and how I can know it and whether or not I actually know shit. So in this case, I don't know shit. I'm just speculating. So, but it's a reasonable inference, right? It's a reasonable thing to say, hey, is this true? I don't know. Maybe. All right, continuing on. Monero transactions have, they came up like bigly for a little bit, maybe not that bigly, but we came up to 35,000 for a nice solid period of time there, almost for half the month of May. And then things kind of dropped back to 25K. I guess that's all right. Let's take a look at a little bit longer. Yeah, I mean, that's still pretty decent, right? I mean, we're still slowly moving up. We're setting higher lows. Things appear to be more consistently a little bit higher in the range. So this is fine. Again, this is slow, steady growth, right? And it's way better to have steady, consistent growth than it is to have stupid growth. At least that's my opinion. You know, take it or leave it. Okay, so I guess that's pretty much Monero here. Let's take a look at Monero Gold because it actually, interestingly, so again, no one is almost no one is trading the Monero versus the gold price, but it's interesting just how these charts all seem to kind of work in concert, right? They don't always do that, right? It's not always the case that comparing one asset against a bunch of different assets are always going to obey all the technical lines or technical analysis. But in this case, Monero has actually adhered to whatever, a decent number of technical spots. So in this case, obviously, that's the upper standard deviation lines here for the XMR versus gold chart, and it's taken a pullback. And as we talked about, the XMR versus BTC price, same thing. This line here was an important line from like the last pullback, I guess, downfall from XMR BTC. So yeah, interesting how that happens sometimes, often actually. All right, let's do I have let's take a look at the privacy altcoins. I won't call them shit coins. Privacy, what did I have this? Yeah, privacy coins. Okay. Xano. Okay, remember I said I'm not going to tell you guys what Xano's going to do. We have a comment here. Sounds like someone, Lucifer. Lucifer would like to know what the Monero versus Xano price is doing. All right, we'll do that in a second here. Okay, yeah, so here's the Xano chart. I don't know, you guys, again, y'all decide what you want to do with this chart. I'm not here to tell you about what this thing's going to do. You can make your own decisions. Just putting it out there. Although, it looks like it's done pretty well lately. So it's not totally unexpected, right? If Monero's doing well. Let's do XMR versus Xano. Let's see. Wait.
Do Zcash too.
Oh yeah, XMR versus Zcash is nice. Man, what's wrong here? Why can't I get this XNO USDT? Is that what we need to do? Here we go. Is that actually, because this chart has, is that the MEXC price, CoinEx price? Maybe it doesn't matter which one I choose. Let's do MEXC because I think they probably had the USDT.P. What? No. Whatever. All right, forget it. We're just gonna do this. Whatever this one is no, that's not right. God damn it. Oh, it was right actually. Hopefully this is correct. Let's see. Looks like Xano has pumped relative to, what are we on the weekly here? Let's go to the daily. So it looks like XMR is outperforming Xano to quite a large extent here. In fact, there was only a short period of time. There's really only a few short periods of time where Xano actually did outperform XMR. It's kind of got this spikiness, but now Monero's has been basically crushing Xano here for a while now. So cool. Yeah, thanks for suggesting that, Lucifer. That was actually an interesting chart to look at. All right, let's look at XMR USD divided by, I think Kraken has the longest price for Zcash. So we're going to look at this on the weekly because it's a beautiful chart. We're not going to put any wave magic on it because there's no need to. But yeah, it's just consistently just continuing to crush Zcash over time. And of course it's going to, right? They've got a big, massive centralized pool. These guys are selling so that Zuku can eat his Wagyu steak and make weird commercials. And Monero has actual usage in hodlers. There's no difference, right? I said there's a massive difference. There's no contest. There's just Zcash can't keep up over the long term. It can't compete. So yeah, you'll notice that occasionally they pump the shit out of Zcash, right, to try and pretend like they can keep up with Monero. They usually do it during big price pumps, during bull markets of crypto. So yeah, we set a new all-time high recently. Zcash, sweet.
I do think they have advantage though in terms of access to people aping into Zcash.
Yeah, they're on exchanges.
I could go on Coinbase. If I want to ape into privacy coins, if I'm in New York, I can much more easily ape into Zcash than Monero. So there's definitely some advantage.
Yeah, definitely true that they've got that. Even so, right? Even with their advantage, even with their corporate support, their corporate advantage, their commercials, their Wagyu beef, etc., they still can't keep up with Monero, right? We've been banned and hated and shunned, and they still can't keep up. So it's there's just no contest there. Okay, with Pirate Chain. So Pirate Chain is almost back to where it broke down, I guess, earlier this year. But so it's this is such a problematic chart, guys. Yeah, I've got problems with Pirate Chain, so of course I'm biased. But 2023, it should have been the end of the bear market. right? Or sorry, the end of 2022 should have been the end of the bear market, right? You think, hey, this is it, right? That's the end of the bear market. You get a little bit of pumpage here on some wick spikes, and then you make a newer low. You set a lower low, even as the rest of crypto was actually pumping here at that point. And then you just kind of like trend on the bottom line occasionally, doing this like elevator up, take the stairs down, elevator up, take the stairs down. And like Bitcoin is just set new all-time highs. Monero is crushing it lately, and Pirate Chain can barely get back to its bear market lows. Like, that's really bad price action, guys. And that's exactly the kind of thing I've been telling you for years is going to happen with chains that have this kind of massive, not pre-mine trademark, not an insta-mine trademark, but mind everything on ASICs, like 90% in like 2 or 3 years on ASICs, and has this massively centralized supply, presumably held by the founders. So this is exactly the kind of price action you expect, because when people come and they start buying and they get excited about Pirate Chain, they're like, oh shit, our project doesn't have much more users. We're dying. We better get what we can. So they dump on your asses, right? They just dump the price down. So they sell into buying, and probably, maybe, I don't know, guys. I can't tell you that this chart is ever going to come back. Maybe it could. But there's so much, guys, there's so much trust loss here at this point. Like the founders should have, these guys are not being founders that are being well controlled with their liquidity selling. Like, if you want to look at controlled liquidity selling, look at Ripple. Okay. Like, I don't like Ripple. They're bullshit, but their founders at least have done a reasonably okay job at not dumping too hard on the people buying their coin so that they can still maintain things. But Pirate Chain has now spent 4 years just look, to get back to that all-time high, you've got to go 10,000%. Okay, that's 100x, right? That's massive. That's just very unlikely to happen without some new C word event to pump the liquidity. So yeah, it's just too much. There's just so much trust loss. All right, enough about Pirate Chain. I'm just going off here, and I'm just ranting. I'm sorry. Let's go back to crypto. Actually, before we talk about crypto and Bitcoin, let's talk about some macro stuff. All right, let's talk about the Trump tariffs. So there has been some interesting developments. And John Roberts, I see your comment. We'll get to Ethereum and maybe Algorand if we have time. Doug, let me know if I'm getting too long, and I can shorten this thing up. Okay, let's talk about the Trump tariffs. This is important. So on Wednesday, the United States Federal Court of International Trade, or something like that, it's a federal court, they struck down one of the methods by which Trump had imposed tariffs. It was some kind of legislation passed in, I believe, the 70s, where it talked about giving the president the powers to regulate international trade of some form or another, but it doesn't mention tariffs at all, not even once. And so a consortium of various people in various industries challenged whether Trump had exceeded his authority on that piece of scribbled legislation. And the court agreed with them. They said, no, actually, and Chevron here is important. Remember the Chevron ruling, the Chevron doctrine of the Supreme Court for decades held that you have to defer to the executive bureaucratic interpretation of the law, as long as it might slightly be a little bit reasonable, which has caused such an enormous amount of horrible, horrendous fuckery in our lives, trickling all the way down from the top to the bottom to your pocketbook. So essentially, Chevron got struck down. I don't remember when, a year or 2 years ago, and so now a lot of stuff has to get reevaluated. Well, the Trump tariffs have been struck down, but not entirely, because they actually used a framework of various legislative vectors to impose these tariffs. I don't know exactly which markets they are, but some particular markets, the tariffs have been struck down at federal court. Obviously, there's an appeals process, and the Trump administration was able to obtain an emergency stay of the ruling so that they can keep the tariffs in place while all of this gets sorted out. Looks like mid-June now is when we might get sort of the next important pieces of this. So the tariffs are still here. So they're still kind of weighing on the economy, but there's hope, right? You're telling me there's a chance. The problem is, though, that on Friday, so they got their stay, they got their emergency appeal. The tariffs are still in place. Maybe in a couple weeks that'll change. But one of the other pieces of legislation, I don't remember what it is. One of those other pieces of legislation, Trump is still that. I don't know if it's still in challenge or not, but that one was not struck down, at least at this moment. And so Trump decided to raise steel tariffs by 50% and say, hey, if you're bringing steel into the country, now it's, instead of 25%, now it's 50%. So he actually raised tariffs in almost like this retaliatory fashion against the courts. because his other tariffs got struck down. So it's kind of crazy if you really think about it. It's very petulant. Whatever. So anyways, that's like the important backdrop of tariffs, because remember, tariffs are tied directly into this whole macro crash thing that I've been talking about for a long time, and that tariffs are the thing pushing that, right? So when Liberty Day, where he came to liberate us from our right to buy cheap Chinese products and global products, happened, right? We had the big macro crash. Oil, like we talked about. So let's start integrating this somewhat to the charts. So we had the situation where oil had crashed, and I said, hey, that's our alpha. This is it. It's coming, right? End of March, early April, expect it. Shit crashed, things were bad, right? And then 2 days later, he walked back a lot of those tariffs, which kind of saved the markets. It saved the acute macro crash from happening in earnest. But I said, hey, there's still problems, right? Like, this is not going away. At the moment now, there's like a ray of hope out there that this might be going away, or a significant portion of it might be going away. Like, if it's hard to say for sure. There's a really solid chance that Trump's appeal gets totally struck down, because the lower court, or the court that struck it down, the federal court that struck it down, said that this is a constitutional issue. You exceeded your constitutional authority by doing something that the legislative body did not give you the authority to do. And that's going to be a lot more difficult. And it was done at summary judgment. So that actually kind of limits the appeals that they can even make. Don't worry about why, but that it does. So there's kind of this interesting hope that maybe the macro crash doesn't need to happen to the level that I was expecting, that I was predicting. At the moment, I certainly wouldn't be shorting this market, guys. Like, at this moment, I know we're kind of at some potentially resistance areas in the macro, like in the stock markets. I wouldn't be shorting this market. This thing could end up going up. So this is one of those situations where, we talk about the technical analysis and the tea leaves, and I'm like, oh yeah, my statistics are so amazing, right? They just blow your tits off. But the reality is that you have to interpret every chart for what it is, for its unique perspective, and understand what the TA might be telling you. When it comes to the stock market, it is number go up, right? And it's not like the maximalism laser ride number go up where you get, a 10x out of nowhere. It's steady, progressive, marching forward, like a military march, one step at a time, and you're not going to stop it over long periods of time. That's the kind of chart we're looking at when it comes to the stock market. So you always bias your interpretation of the technical analysis to the upside when you're looking at stock market charts. So even though you would say that this right here is very, very potentially a resistance, or maybe right here, right? You're kind of taking a step back here and saying, you know what, maybe not. Maybe this isn't nearly as much resistance as we would think. Maybe this isn't the kind of resistance that you short. Maybe it's the kind of resistance that needs to consolidate and then you long, right? So things are still up in the air. Things are still uncertain. Markets don't like uncertainty, but I can't tell you that I think this is going to go down. I can't tell you that I think that's even the 50% probability at this point. If tariffs end up sticking and this gets overturned, that's probably, like, if that happens in a couple weeks, that's probably the next salvo into the next drop of the market. But if it gets if Trump tariff, I'll say that again, if Trump tariffs get held up in a couple weeks at the appellate court, then you could probably expect that, yeah, this thing's going to turn sour, turn negative. But if Trump tariffs get struck down and they fail their appeal, there will still be some other tariffs in place, but it could maybe be just a short time till those also get struck down, and then we could definitely see positive movement here. One thing I've noticed is that Bitcoin tends to, in a lot of cases, lead the speculative, like the speculative tech stock stuff, right? As I've said for a long time, Bitcoin is tech stocks on steroids. And so if there is the speculation, if there's that glimmer of hope that NASDAQ is going to be coming back, right, and good things are about to happen, which again, similar kind of idea here. You're in the upper standard deviations after a big fall off. You normally don't expect just to like smash to the upside, but sometimes with a chart like this, that can happen. Again, because the stock market is so ridiculously exponentially positive over many years. But the point is that Bitcoin often leads that charge, because it's the speculate. Like, if NASDAQ is speculation on tech stocks, Bitcoin is speculation on the NASDAQ in some kind of ways, right? Like, don't take that too far. But so with that in mind, let's take a look at the Bitcoin chart right now. And from a pure technical analysis perspective, this guy right here is the upper standard deviations. Remember, we said, hey, this has gotten a little bit high, right? A little bit above the standard deviations. Expect some consolidation. And then I haven't been with you guys for a couple weeks now. So we got a big pump and we got right to the underside of that, of the upper standard deviation extension, which is the purple bands. Right, tag that, and now we're touching this here. This is very classic action, guys. This is very classic bullish action. To touch this guy right here, and then to make another fire towards the top side. I think that would be pretty reasonable. Obviously, anything can happen here. I'm going to give that, like, let's just say it's 75% chance that this guy right here is a good buying spot, and that this thing's going to come towards the upside and probably go for another all-time high. So we always have to be careful with Bitcoin, because ever since 2021, one of the playbook things they love to do is to make a barely a little do all-time high and then fall, right? And then same thing here. We barely got a little all-time high right here, right? Yeah, technically, yay, all-time high, and then selling, right? Insiders selling on the buying pressure, right? And actually, we finally, with the Trump presidency, you got like this actually a truly new all-time high at 100K, and here we are again. We've barely made a new all-time high. Is that it? Are we gonna have to do this now? I don't know. So that's what I'm saying. It's like maybe 75% that this thing goes up, but there's still a reasonable chance that there could be unloading happening here. I'm not totally. I don't like this number that just happened. This happened on Friday. We got a big spike in the reverse repos. It can happen, right? We need to keep an eye on this. If this thing decides to stay elevated, if it decides, especially like from a TA standpoint, if this thing decides to do that, that's really bad news. We kind of had this situation where we thought, hey, this is actually a sustained upside. And it was, right, with the anticipation of all the tariffs and Liberty Day or Liberation Day or whatever. And then Trump backed off those tariffs. So it's over here. And in fact, you can actually see probably insiders had wind that the insiders probably had wind that was going to happen. In fact, so I actually think they're probably, like, Trump acts bombastic and like he's making whimsical in the moment decisions, or what, whimsical is not the right word, but making decisions on a whim. And then I don't think that's the case, though. I think that they actually plan this stuff out. I think his advisors, at least at a minimum, aren't that stupid, and I think that they leverage this and take advantage. So, anyways, the point is that yeah, we're going to probably maybe look at these reverse repos as a potential signal. If this thing if it wants to stay high and stay up here, that could be a bad sign that people are actually exiting risk and protecting themselves. When I say people, I mean big institutions. So yeah, that's a little bit of disconcerting news right there. But so it's kind of like it's kind of a wash, right? There's like a mix here. It's like some positive, some that's negative, but it could be positive in 2 weeks maybe, but we're not sure. And Trump also changes his mind all the time, but the courts are involved, and okay, well, the Bitcoin TA looks good, but they've also been faking everyone out with slightly higher highs and then washing out for a couple months, like, right? So you can kind of get, I'm sort of being back and forth on the things I'm saying here, but hey, this is the kind of stuff you have to do, right? If you want to do markets, if you want to trade, you have to take all this in and say, okay, that's a positive, that's a negative. Well, that's kind of a different type of positive, right? Just trying to help you give the perspective of things that I'm saying here. Oil still down, still not showing great strength, but it is tending to hold its own here at 60. If things go to the downside, right? If oil starts crashing and the markets are still high and oil is like down here at 50, that's another sign that that a new leg down is probably imminent. We'll have to temper that with things like OPEC and whatnot. If they decide to produce even more oil so that to put the world awash in oil, and it could be again kind of a strike against Russia because their currency is so bound to energy. All right, let's look at gold. We talked about gold has felt a little bit toppy for a while. At the moment, this doesn't have to be the end. Okay, like just from simple things like this doesn't have to be the end. Gold effectively had a big run above the upper standard deviation extensions, the purple band. So getting this far above the purple bands is usually that's too far. That's too ahead. You've really got to take a moment, come back, establish contact with this level here, which is kind of what's happened, right? So at this moment, this has been more of consolidation at new highs than necessarily saying that it's a top. But this thing could potentially go to the downside, right? Like if the Trump tariffs hold, right, you could probably expect gold to start crashing if the appellate court strikes down the lower court's decision and decides to uphold the Trump tariffs. That could be a factor. There's also the fact of this line that I've showed you guys forever. We'll take another look at it. It's the upper standard deviation extension calculated over every single candle in the past. So again, we tag that level. Price almost never gets more than like 4 or 5% above it for a well-established long-term kind of asset. New assets like Bitcoin that do massive exponential pumps can often get above that level and then significantly exceed it. But for established assets like gold and now Bitcoin, assets almost never actually get above this line. unless there's like fundamental events happening. So yeah, I don't know where gold's going to go here. I'm not selling any of mine at the moment because it's like it's been so positive. How could I get rid of it? And I just don't see anything else that I necessarily want more exposure to. So I'll probably just hang on to the gold. Maybe I'll just never sell it. I sort of fantasized about flipping into Bitcoin, or not Bitcoin, crypto, flipping into some kind of crypto at this level, but I just don't. It's just hard with all the uncertainty. It's hard for me to say, hey, I'm going to go take that risk now. I need to see a liquidity expansion to convince me that that I want to do that. Let's see. We had an XMR chat. Someone said, please comment on Tari price action. Is Tari listed anywhere? Can I even like look at that price action? I haven't even bothered to look at it. Maybe I'm being a little bit biased here. I think it's mostly, because I'm not so convinced that Tari is something I really do want to invest into. I really I'd be waiting for DarkFi, but I don't know. Let's look it up. Let's go to, oh no, you can see, I'm confessing I was looking at AVAX. Oh my God. How could you, body? How could you? All right, Tari. Is Tari listed anywhere? Tari USDT? Oh my God. It is indeed. Gate.io. Well, that's the monthly. Wait. No. That can't be right. Was this like futures trading on Tari? That can't be right. That maybe I'm looking at the wrong signal or the wrong Tari World Tether, Tari USD spot. I don't think any of these are the. Did someone come in there and oh man, that would be dirty business. Oh, this is Thai USDT. Okay. No, this is Tari World versus Tether. Man, that's kind of dirty. It sounds like someone might have done Ricardo a bit dirty here by introducing some other Tari coin. But then again, there's a coin for everything. So can you trademark words? I don't know. Okay. Let's take a look at the comments here. No, okay. I'm not really seeing a whole lot. What did he say is that line? No, okay. We'll just skip that. People can go reverse if they need to. Okay, so yeah, we talked about Bitcoin here. There's a decent chance that Bitcoin actually finds support here and then pumps towards the upside. Let's take a little bit of a back trip here and see if we can find another place that might have faked us out. No. So we had a big move to the upside, and we didn't have a similar pattern that faked to the downside. So that's a good sign. In fact, right here, it went up, found the support. Like we said, classic action. Look for the breakout. It happened. Let's go back a little bit further and see if we can see anything else. I think we're back in 2023 here now. Yeah, no, there's no recent patterns. So there's nothing here in the recent chart for Bitcoin where this kind of positive price action happened, where we get this this positive signal here on the wave magic, and then it faked out to the downside. I see that sometimes, but I have almost never seen that from Bitcoin. So I would probably expect this guy's going towards the upside, guys. So there's probably positive action to be had here if you are a Bitcoin lover, or if you just use it for gains. Maybe that's fine too. Can we get an alt season? We had an alt episode, like we talked about. There's a little alt episode here, but man, it didn't even go down. It didn't even get down to the bottom of the range. So I don't know, guys. Can we get an alt season? I still maintain that to really get a true alt season, we need a liquidity expansion. It's not enough just to hope that the Trump tariffs cover for everything. We need J-Power to lower those goddamn rates. We need liquidity. Come on, J-Power, pump my bags, please. I need some monkey JPEGs. I need some animal coins, maybe cat coins this time. Who knows? All right. Anyways, I think that's it, guys. I don't think there's really much else here to talk about. Maybe we could talk about this. So we got some new inflation numbers. You'll notice inflation actually came down. Wow, they did it. The central bank did it, guys. They got us back down to 2%, almost, basically, kind of. Let's see. Core inflation in orange here, still at 2.8%. But, I mean, that's still not bad, right? That's still pretty good. Maybe they just finagled the way that they measure inflation. But mission accomplished. Land on that aircraft carrier. Fly that jet. Okay, and then we've got the GDP. Actually, the GDP allegedly now has spiked even higher. So from Q1, the GDP numbers are reporting positive. So that's a negative against my whole macro crash thesis, because GDP just spiked down and then rebounded to the upside. That's suspicious, guys. Honestly, that's really, really fucking suspicious. I'm telling you, I'm sitting here in Mexico trying to order shit on Amazon. It's we can't deliver that shit to you. It's wait, but why? Well, because of tariffs. They don't tell you it's because of tariffs, but because the screen looks different. Everything about the whole order looks different. About their inability to ship it looks different. They still put the product there. They just put red letters, "We can't ship to you at this time." So it's like, okay. And then it's for so many products. So you just know it's because of the tariffs, right? So it's difficult for me to believe that GDP just spiked up without a liquidity expansion, without shit, just spiked to 4% in Q1. It's hard for me to believe, guys. I don't know what's going on with that, but maybe there's something I'm missing here that I misunderstand about Q1. Maybe because the tariffs hadn't like fully taken hit yet, hadn't like fully made it. Maybe there was a massive influx on the anticipation of tariffs where a whole bunch of products moved into the US and maybe that counts as GDP. I'm really reaching here, guys. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, we'll see if this thing vacillates to the downside on Q2 data. That'll be interesting. It'll definitely be if it does vacillate, it'll be an indication of fuckery regarding Q1 or some weird fundamental thing going on. So anyways, all right, with that, I actually mean it this time. I'm done. I don't have anything else to say. I'm out unless there's questions, or I do think we have some XMR chats that we might have missed. So Doug, if you feel like if you want to come back in and put some of those comments up. Bueller.
I'm here, bro. I'm here. Hold up one sec. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, cool. I move you to my other speaker while you do your thing, and I just listen to you in the background.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Who do we got? We do have some XMR chats. Let's go back. Try to do them in chronological order here. I think this is the last.
Oh, I realized someone asked about something and I forgot. They asked about, I think it was Ethereum and Algorand. Yeah, John Roberts. Okay. I almost missed you, John Roberts. Go ahead and put the XMR chats up and I'll pull those charts up.
Okay. I'm just looking back to make sure. I don't want to be accused of censoring anybody, guys. I'm not censoring. If anything, it's my lack of abilities, guys. Going to steal my... No, we did that one. All right, so now let me go all the way back. We could set it where the chats auto show, too, when they come in. I don't know why we don't have it set for that.
It's because I miss them all the time. Like I get on a roll and then I don't see them. It's out of my visual space. So
right, but we can still just have them come up auto for any time anybody sends a super chat. It will auto display.
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea, and then we can circle back around and read them out loud if I miss it.
Although, actually, because we're doing it through StreamYard, I don't think we can. Now that I'm realizing, if we were using OBS, we could do that. Selena Betts tipped 4 cents. You cannot force anyone to be righteous or good or to live healthy. Running your nodo and mining with one thread on it is the same. I scandalously insult everyday people telling them that they should mine XMR and run their own node for their own good. Kiss. Yeah, for sure. Run your own node, especially if it's a Monero node, right? But no, just run your own node. Any way you could do it. Tari Enjoyer tipped 4 cents. Please comment on Tari price action. I believe you did, right?
Yeah, we hit it. Well, no, I didn't. I tried, but I don't see a chart here, so I'm gonna have to go dig.
Okay.
Price. Hopefully I remember to do that. If anyone knows where it's traded, sing out. Let me know. Yeah. Like, where can I go find that price so I don't have to go search for it?
Yeah, Tari and George say MoneroTopia is only on CoinGecko as far as I know. So there you go.
He's saying MoneroTopia. Interesting. Let's see if we can find that. MoneroTopia. I imagine if it, yeah, okay. Oh, CoinGecko obviously is duh. CoinGecko.
Yeah.
.com. All right, let's see.
If you just search Tari, does it come up on CoinGecko?
It should.
Tariff. Tariff coin.
Tariff coin. Oh, here it is. MoneroTopia. Wrapped Mino. Someone already put wrapped MoneroTopia on XTM. Is that Stellar? No, it's not.
No, that is Tari.
Wrapped? Oh, does Tari wrap itself like Ethereum wraps itself? Maybe that's the case. Okay, yeah, so price 24 hours. Let's go for 1 month. Big movements in price. Someone's out there buying it up. I should have done it. I should have talked to the miners. I should have made a OTC deal for all you miners out there and bought the Tari price.
I couldn't even mine any. I ran it for a couple of days. I haven't tried again, but I think now it's probably even harder. But I wasn't able to get anything.
Actually, now it's probably less hard because of the Monero hash rate. You can see the Monero hash rate has actually come down to, I mean, it's still above pre-Tari launch levels, but it has come down to some of the lowest levels since Tari launch. So if you wanted to try mining again, now would probably be the opportunity. Maybe they've got the bugs worked out.
Yeah, maybe I'll give it another shot.
All right, so let's. I promised. I think it was John Roberts. I said, hey, he wanted to look at Algorand. So here's the Algorand price. Let's see. We're on the daily here. So maybe a little bit of no man's land here. I would say Algorand is going to do whatever the rest of the crypto market does, whatever the rest of the altcoins specifically do. You would like to say that this is some kind of support, but it's really that's not how to interpret this level right here. Maybe the first time that was touched, but not anymore. Still, though, this is higher lows, right? Those are higher lows, and hypothetically, if that is the low and you end up here, that would actually be very bullish. But that doesn't necessarily have to happen. In my mind, this chart purely on the TA could just as easily go down to here. So, and then he wanted to look at Ethereum. Yeah, man, Ethereum had just crazy price action with the way that it fell off. I mean, the other thing too here that happened is that the ETF, and I missed this, but the ETF launch was like a major top, right? There was like, hey, we got the ETF now, and all the money's going to come in, but Ethereum did not pump, right? That happened with Bitcoin. The ETFs launched, although that was, in hindsight, I think the ETF launched on Bitcoin, the true ETF, not the futures ETF, the recent ETF, I think that was, wasn't that a significant topping indicator? Am I wrong about that? I need to go back and look at that. Anyways, yeah, Ethereum really came down to pretty headliner spot there to expect some support, and it actually did act as support. Maybe it's time for Ethereum to come back here. I mean, this is a really messed up chart, guys. Like this, it's so rare that you see levels just absolutely destroyed. Like, okay, this was like a stopping point, but it wasn't support. And then this right here should have been support. That should have been something that did this, even if it was going to go down. That should have been a major support, and it wasn't. So something fundamental or some fuckery, I don't know, one or the other or both. Someone proposed that maybe it was because a big Ethereum founder got hacked, and so they like sold his Ethereum off. I don't know, but I mean, this is like just, it doesn't make any sense what happened there. So I don't know. Obviously, markets are right, and I am wrong. But I can tell you that something massive and fundamental happened there for the Ethereum BTC price to fall like that. So I always suspect fuckery when I see things that are very odd, because that should be one of the first things that you suspect. It doesn't mean that I'm saying it is, right? I'm not saying 100%. I know. I'm just saying, hey, I know the markets have a huge fraud component. That's one of the first things that pops into my mind. Now let's think about mechanisms, right? So I haven't really thought about mechanisms on this one because maybe I don't care that much. But anyways, yeah, that's the Ethereum price. That's the Algorand price. Mr. Roberts, hopefully that satisfies your evil, lustful urge to know about altcoins other than Monero.